big open area over here.
A lot of seats open right now.
Yeah. Razzie, can I get you over here too?
Shut up. What did I say?
And Natalie, move to the back row, please.
I'll give you fucking $5 if you don't say a fucking thing. That's a deal.
Razzie, come over in the middle.
Can it be pounds?
To the right in front of me, pretty much. Just to make it look more full.
Okay, I believe we are ready. I'm starting my camera now.
All right, mute yourselves.
From now on.
Razzie, come over in the middle.
Can it be
Get in
pounds?
this
To the right
Let's go.
in front of me, pretty much. Just to make it look more full.
All rise for the Honorable High Lord Judge Brunswick.
I'm starting my camera now. Cut!
All right, mute yourselves.
Cut!
I'm the prosecutor, you idiot! The prosecutor! That's the judge!
Hell.
Brunswick's not the judge.
Again, actually, I'm going to be. You need to, Stella. You need to be really loud because I'm going to move the camera on the back so I can.
You idiot!
move like.
Prosecutor!
The viewers are meant to stand up.
Oh god.
I'm going behind you guys so I can actually see it.
What if you're full body?
Then you have a bad time.
They will stand.
Stella, you should come to the middle of the room so everybody can hear you.
Okay,
Someone
camera
needs to
is
smell
rolling.
Sorad 'cause he's
Second
dead.
take.
I can't stand you!
Let's go.
I think you're all right.
All rise
thanks,
for the
Brunswick.
Honorable High Lord Judge Bringus.
Come on
Hold on, let me get myself situated. There we go. You may be seated. Welcome everyone to this most esteemed of days where we try the innocence of one of those three men. I haven't decided yet.
Hamsky.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr.
the
Hamsky,
judge
very
isn't
good.
appearing for me right now.
Um,
I gotta
where's
go
the prosecution?
restart my VR chat. Hold on.
Is he your
Hello.
name?
Hi,
Hello,
Lord
Hello.
Judge Bringus.
You're the prosecution, Brunswick. Oh wow. This is going to be a slam dunk for you, isn't it?
We'll see about that.
You guys are fucked. Right, anyway. Carry on. What are we doing?
Guys, I believe Brunswick.
I call court into session.
Oh, fuck, there he goes throwing it. Yes, okay. Yeah, how did I know that?
Brunswick for you.
He's like all the way over there in the seat.
I am not.
We can't carry on like
I am
We
here.
can't carry on like this. This is a bug, Brunswick. You need to rejoin the world, sadly.
Why are we
Me?
still here?
Or is it him?
Suffer.
Yeah,
Because they see me
I
here.
had the same.
There's a couple of us.
I had the same problem some minutes
I
ago.
see
I
him
had
here.
to rejoin. Like Rickety was rejoining 3 times, and he still. I was still right in front of Gramundo for him.
Why are we
So
still
you
here?
actually have to rejoin.
Just
sadly.
suffer. Every night I can feel my leg. Every night
Very
I
nice,
feel
really
my
I hope
nice.
this works. I hope this works.
You
Once we
did?
are on, like,
God. Oh, she's
Judge, my second lawyer's getting away.
What?
My
That
second
might be
lawyer's
the
calling
best.
away.
Police.
That's
maybe
your
these
business.
music
Sort it
might
out.
be for the best.
Okay.
Once they bring your gavel back, I'm sure you'd like to do opening statements.
I don't need a gavel.
Can the bailiff grab the gavel?
Also, Your
Time for
Honor, I
opening
believe
statements.
Hey!
Wait, no, we gotta wait for what?
Yeah,
What's
definitely.
so important?
Actually, no.
Your
no,
Honor, I
okay,
believe
okay, hold on.
evidence has
Trying
also been
to-
procured in the back room detailing. So if you choose to use that expensive camera feature that it is installed, completely up to you, Your Honor.
I'm looking for my binaural beats. There we are.
Almost have some Got any Post Malone on there?
Rickety.
shot. You're pretty.
Yeah, Todd.
Fuck you.
I think we need to invite Brunswick again, I think.
Yeah, he just requested. I just accepted it.
Oh, perfect.
Tell him.
Okay.
There's our boy. thought it was there. I have it turned really low.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is difficult without my
Then go ahead.
glasses.
All right, prosecution, please introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Hi, Lord Honorable Judge Bringus. I am the prosecution for the LPD. My name is Mr. Brunswick. And the charges that the LPD shall be pursuing today are breaking and entering, possession of an illegal substance, intent to distribute, trespassing, vandalism, and squatting. These are the charges that we seek to bring before the court so they can make an honorable decision whether or not the defendant is guilty.
I have
That is all.
restarted VR chat.
Very
Someone
good.
invite me in. I was
Defense,
before.
please proceed with your opening statement. And introduce yourselves as well.
Of course, Your Highness.
You crash, you just need to request again.
Python of the Robert Python Association. This right here is my poor misunderstood friend who has been cruelly abused and framed by the Lolly Police Department, which, mind you, has no official legal jurisdiction within this quadrant of the metaverse, so I believe. But what I'm here today is to show you and the rest of these good people that this poor man here, quite frankly, is a victim of circumstance. Right. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And, yes, I don't think he's graduated college, but he's also one of the attorneys.
That's my second lawyer, just in case.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, that's a good name. I like that name. Just in case. That's a good name. Strong name.
Just go with it.
So
Yeah,
do an opening
I'm now just in case Mihamski's second lawyer in World Reading.
He has to
I read a book on lawyering and just before we came here, so I'm pretty ready to help Mihamski. And this is
Oh, I see.
Gormundi. He already introduced himself, but I'm pretty much him.
Who?
I mean,
I see.
this is Robert Anaconda? Python. Robert Python.
Excuse me. Well, that's all very fascinating. Right, so I suppose we should open or begin witness examination? Yes? Unless
One
I'm
moment.
forgetting something.
Is Gormunder over there?
No.
Because for me, he's right there.
I mean, yes, he
He's
is.
over there.
IDD.
I see him over there.
I see him right there.
Like he's here.
Looking at. That's why I looked over there confused.
try a new
Because I see
instance?
Gormunder over there.
Interesting.
Do we really want to?
I
I
told
mean,
you,
this keeps
this
happening.
fucking world's broken now.
Yeah.
We need a new instance.
Do you want to drop it, Todd?
Okay,
Damn,
let's
could I
change
drop
the
this
instance.
stupid
I mean, we had
Holy shit.
we had to do that last time too, so whatever. Let's change one up. Remember where you
'Cause
got
Mr.
seated?
Python's right
Remember
here
your
for me.
seats? We won.
Oh, damn.
He was sitting in your lap, so I was very confused.
English?
What was being pulled on me?
Yes, you get some time.
Jesus.
Your arms were wrapped around his waist and everything.
Oh no.
Real pleasure. Yes, good to meet you.
Hey, Mr.
Pleasure to
Brunswick.
meet you. Robert Python.
Yes, hello.
Hi,
It's a
Robert
pleasure.
Python, local celebrity. Pleasure to meet
pleasure
you.
is all
Good to
mine,
meet you.
my friend.
Robert
How are you?
Python. Robert Python.
was
You
happy.
just heard me with the...
Alright, thank you for asking.
Your
I hope you're having a
Oh
good
man,
day.
I looked it already.
Are you
Guess really. Guess
That's
it's
it.
a late
What's your-
thing.
Honorable High Lord Judge Bringus.
It's just a little loud. My tinnitus is acting up.
Oh yeah.
I miss
should
your
make this.
I used to be covered in bandages.
I miss my
and then
frosty
just
rattler
started
hands,
this
too.
Avatar, you know?
I wish they would
never
return.
done
We should do this.
That's
as
true,
well.
I should never
That's
have.
funny.
Oh,
Everyone get
Oh,
into the
yeah,
plane.
go for the better.
Oh, it's gone. Yeah,
Wait,
yeah, go on.
everyone else has to
Don't
join
panic.
off.
Don't
Good thing he
panic.
probably wouldn't
Don't
fit.
panic.
oh, look at that. The
Don't
judges.
panic.
Hey, court's not in session right now.
Don't panic.
That's a good point.
Right.
And you're fortunate I'm a very law-abiding man, and I've never broken a single law
Everyone-
to get revenge on anyone in my
Hey,
life.
listen to me, guys.
Well, listen,
listen to
I
me,
like
guys.
him thick.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone who has Rickety on your friends list, you can request an invite. I'm going to tell him the rest who needs to get invited. So everyone, please stay here with me, who has no invite yet. Rickety, do you know who to invite? We still have Purple Ghost, Gaming Exide here, Impala Cat.
I've been invited.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm working on it now.
Impala, I believed you were invited by someone else, right? So you have to ask them to invite you again. And Buruzu still needs an invite, and I'm going to join now.
Yeah, just request off of me.
Yeah, you always send some to me.
Alright, everyone get back in.
You can see me over here, right? I'm in the right chair. It's cool.
A rocket person sounds like Chie from Persona 4.
I've never played that.
I'm the one.
I've only played
Watch
5.
yourself. LPD's gonna take you down, buddy. Watch.
Might
Yeah, he's
might
gonna
be
go
Chie.
down with you. He's going down with you in the toilet.
that goo?
Oh god damn it.
Not the good book now.
There we go.
What are you all looking at?
I think my lawyer went on a poop break.
Understandable. He looked bloated.
Who's laughing there? Here's the fingerprint scanner and the lie detector. Oh, and once I sing, you can flick through right here. I
Yeah.
believe there you go.
It's not my first rodeo, champion.
Of course. I just need to make sure it didn't break. I heard it broke.
Was Pringles on the screen for a moment?
Shut up.
Short hole.
Woman got hungry.
Yeah.
Alright, are we ready to roll?
No. All right.
Do you remember where St. Pringles was about
All right.
to get started here with?
Yes, we're about to get witnesses. Yes.
Okay. I'm starting the camera. And start.
All right. Will the prosecution bring forth their first witness?
I believe it was the defendant who wanted to bring forth a witness, Your Honor.
Oh, was it? All right. Go ahead.
Right. I would like to call Impala to the stand.
Up onto the table. She's a rabbit. She can hop like that.
All right. Bailiff, you have to swear her in and using the yard chat terms of service.
Bailiff, oh bailiff.
You swear on
You
Okay.
Make her work for it.
He
Work
shit
for it.
himself.
Just say stuck on it or something.
That's what I like to see.
Thank you.
Really,
Yes.
really
Tap on the Bible.
terms
Good.
of service like that. Oh my God, what is this?
She's swearing on the
You swear
Bible.
to say the
Yup.
truth and nothing
The
but
terms
the
of service.
truth. I do.
Now, groom,
Good
you may
enough.
kiss the bride.
Oh no, Your Honor, may I permission to approach the witness?
Permission accepted. Give me back my Bible. It's actually hollow. If you look inside, it's got a flask.
I thought it'd be
Impala.
a cookie or something. I'm sorry.
What do you think?
Do you or do you not know the man sitting in the courtroom today known as Meat Hamsky?
Yes.
Would you say that in your time of knowing Mr. Hamsky, he is a reputable, stand-up kind of guy?
Yes.
I see. Were you there on the night of the alleged arrest against Mr. Hamsky, conducted by the Lolly Police Department? Please try to keep your emotions to yourself. Yes, yes.
She got rabies in prison.
Down, boy.
Please make us look bad. Would you say that Mr. Hamsky was unnecessarily brutalized by the Lolly Police Department upon this arrest?
Bitch, fuck, nigga, you over.
The tongue.
Speaking in tongues. Yes. Was it true that Mr. Hamsky, upon being arrested, was promptly shot by multiple officers?
The pig shot him.
The pigs shot him, Your Honor. Mr. Hamsky, Your Honor, may I please have Mr. Hamsky stand up for the court?
If that's what you're into, go ahead.
All right. Come, stand right here in plain view of His Honor. Mr. Hamsky, when I stick my finger here, does it hurt?
Ow! Come on, what the hell?
What is that I just touched?
That's a bullet hole from an officer.
A
shot me?
bullet hole from an officer that shot him, Your Honor. Was this before or after you were in handcuffs?
Oh,
All right. Yeah, I think you're allowed to say that in courtroom. I believe.
well, I got shot by a tiny cat officer before this whole incident. And so when they were in my apartment, it was a little scary, and they were pretty polite, though.
Okay. Well, shot. Regardless. Twice, even. And brutalized. Look at it. Look at this poor man's face. Look at the bruising around the eyes, the beaten lip, the bandages. Why, that's a tampon on your cheek, good sir.
I couldn't afford anything else.
Were you not given proper medical care within
don't
the
have health
custody of
insurance.
the Lolly Police Department? But surely
Nope.
you know it must have been offered to all prisoners. Did they not offer you free medical assistance after their cruel and brutal beating?
They put me straight in that jail cell and told me to go to sleep, and then took pictures of me. They took pictures.
All right, that's enough. We're not questioning you just yet.
I do have one question for the defendant. So you say that you were attacked and shot and brutalized. Did you fight back, or did you just take it?
It's happened so many
honestly.
times that I may have tried to hit him in the ball sack, but he was so small, I couldn't really hit him in the ball sack, so
Sounds like you're making excuses.
Understandably
for
so,
being,
he's had a violent history with the Lolly Police Department. Even one might say he's a targeted suspect by them and their cruel actions. I dare say the Lolly Police Department is an unjust and unrighteous authoritarian organization hell-bent on random acts of vigilantism. I don't
Right,
even
so-
believe that. Well, yes, of course. Sorry.
What I'm getting from this, if I can just surmise what you're saying, is that you can't fight off a child?
Have you ever had a child come at you with a baton and hit you in the kneecaps?
And a
I'm
gun,
gonna
and a
put
gun.
my
Burn down their
right now.
villages.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
Right.
I'd never let a child talk back to me.
Well, Your Honor, if, with all due respect, the witness here would, can you attest that Mr. Hansky was assaulted that evening?
Yeah, he was assaulted all the time by these darn pigs.
Right. Very good. I rest. You should feel free to cross-examine.
This is just bringing me
Mr.
back
Brunswick, will you
memories.
please?
Of course.
I don't want to go back
Examine
to
this.
prison.
She has rabies. Changed what it looks like.
I think we
was
should send this
standing.
back to prison.
No, wait, no,
I don't disagree with you
force me
at
to
all.
listen to
But
Parky
allow
all
me
day.
to question
No,
you in
no.
person, if you'd be
No,
so kind.
stop.
The egg's a little undercooked, if you know what I mean. We should.
No.
But yes, do go right ahead.
I don't, but I'll play along for the sake of court points. Impala, I have a couple of questions for you. You said that you were present at the time that the LPD showed up at Meet Hamsky's apartment, so to speak, yes? It's a yes or no question. Good, alright. Now, you claim that you witnessed you saw LPD officers assault Meet Hamsky, is that correct? It sounds like you're quite traumatized by the event. Did you see it in its entirety?
Somebody get it, a shot.
Well, it is well known that when you are traumatized by an event, it is burned into your memory and you can never forget it. That being said, can you identify the officers that were present at the time of this assault?
That fucking pig!
I'm sorry, can you say that again? A little less insanity. Are you able to identify the officers in question that were present at the time of the arrest?
Yo, she's crazy, man.
Is she going feral or something?
What?
That being said, how do you know Mr. Meet Hamsky?
Your job.
Good friend, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
I can answer that.
You make me happy.
Happy songs,
never know, dear, how much
happy songs, happy
So-
songs, happy songs.
Impala, you're saying that Meet Hamsky is a friend of yours, yes?
every one of us if you don't
Could you tell me what he does
do it.
for work?
Don't take care of it.
He's a good friend, he's a singer, he's a good friend, good friend, good friend.
Wait, did you say he was a sinner just now?
Singer,
Sinner?
Singer.
Singing songs, Your Honor, I
sinner?
believe.
No, I
Songs?
believe she's
My
saying a
God.
singer.
I'm a
sing us a
little
song quickly.
teapot, short and stout. And Paula, what are you doing?
So, you know Mr. Meet Hamsky as a friend, and you say that he is a singer for his work. And how long have you been friends with the defendant, would you say?
2 years. About 2
2
years.
years. 2 years. How long has he lived in that apartment?
Oh, shit.
Good song, happy song. Happy song?
She's not giving him any.
Do you know how long? that he has lived in that apartment since you are such close friends with Mr. Meadhamsky?
They're happy. Happy.
I find it very odd, Your Honor, that somebody could claim to be such close friends with the defendant wouldn't know how long he had lived at his current location, even though they are present. It would seem long enough to know that they are a singer, and that they were present for the time of the arrest.
Objection!
But that being
Objection,
said,
Your Honor. Hearsay.
The witness is clearly mentally unstable and wouldn't know the answers to these questions.
No, that's
Well, why did you
not
bring him?
that's undermining our case. No, what my what my uneducated friend meant to say is, it would appear at this moment our witness is very emotional about the whole ordeal, and I believe that Mr. Brunswick, in light of the absence of an answer, is coming up with his own conclusions. I call hearsay, Your Honor.
if we're going to speak about hearsay, Your Honor, I would like to bring up what the defendant and his attorney brought up outside of the cross-examination. Mr. Meadhamsky, if you could please stand up for me.
Yeah.
Now you claimed that you were shot by LPD officers, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you claimed that you were brutalized by them upon arrest.
It was one officer, not all of them, but they're all the same, you know?
Well, the story that you had just given not too long ago was all of the officers, upon your arrest, had brutalized you. In fact, that's word for word what your defense attorney had just said.
All
But that's
of
up
the
to the court to
officers present,
decide.
which was
Not for me.
one.
Mm-hmm.
There
That being
have been
said,
other instances. Your Honor, please, this is
I'm not
ridiculous.
speaking about other instances, Mr. Python.
But
Please,
he
I'm
has a
speaking to the
history
defendant.
with... It's not even allowed.
Mr. Meadhamsky, you claimed, or at least your defense attorney claimed, that the injuries to your face it took place from the officers, yes?
It took place from a officer, the ones that busted into my apartment. Oh God, hold on.
He's having a flashback. Just allow a moment.
It's time to corroborate his story, I understand.
Wait, what? No, that's not it at all. You're full of it.
Alright, should be good. What was the question?
Did you get the medical attention you need, Mr. Meadhamsky, or the drugs still kind of slowing you down?
Well, I'm always a little bit on edge, not because of drugs or anything, but yeah, I'm mostly numb because of the pain, because it happens so often. But it's one tiny cat cop that did all this to me, except for when they raided my apartment.
I see. Can you identify the officer in question?
He is not currently here because he decided to not come.
Could you tell me his name?
Officer Radfun.
Officer Radfun. That's an interesting turn of events. From what I understand, Officer, or a Officer Radfun, is not part of the LPD, but that is an entirely different scenario. Mr. Meadhamsky, you can sit down. Impala, if you're ready to answer a couple more questions.
Yeah, I just had a bad moment there. I'm good now. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Good, good.
I'm
Glad
happy.
you're all right.
I wasn't a member of the LPD, then you were imprisoned by a...
Just to very quickly clarify what we've been over. You've known Meadhamsky for how long?
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years. You're unaware of how long he has lived at his current abode?
Since I met him, we've been there, but he also lived in an RV and all over the place too, so I don't know how much assets he owns.
Lived in an RV? Would it happen to be the same RV that was found crashed on a nearby estate in the local area around Lakuza Lounge?
I don't know about that crash.
But you
just,
know that
stopped seeing
Mr.
him in it.
Meadhamsky lived in an RV that is very similar to the one that was found on the scene. But now you're saying you're not sure if that's the one. Somebody who has been friends with Mr. Meadhamsky for 2 years that is aware of that particular asset must know that that is of his possession. Are you being entirely honest with the court?
Yep.
Very well. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Very good. Would you like to re-examine the witness defense, or would you like to call another?
We would like to rest on this witness, Your Honor.
Very good. Please return to your seat, small child.
What? Who?
What are you whispering about? You told me about how fat I am again.
We love you. You're so precious.
All right.
We would never. All right, who's the next witness? Rest. Come on
Bento
now.
over there, the green one.
Green one. Got it. All right. Your Honor. Your
Yes.
Majesty. Your illustriousness. We would like to call another witness to the stand.
Very well.
Bento over there. Right to the stand. We would like to request us, the defense.
Ask the hard questions here, okay?
Bring him up here, bailiff,
Oh my God, Lester.
and use that Bible.
Understand me. I'm gonna grill him.
Hit them if you have to.
Hey, maybe
Please
we could
raise
get
your right
Bento
hand.
here to do it first.
Swear to tell the
Oh, I
truth,
don't
the
see
whole
anyone.
truth, and nothing but the truth.
It's just really weird because for some reason I see you straddling Mr. Brunswick over there, but I know
Oh,
you
my.
really are in the space-time continuum, so I'll just pretend that things are normal.
Probably the Coke, Your Honor. All right.
How did you know? Who told you about the case?
So, Bento. Hello there. You seem like a chipper, kind of happy little person. You seem very happy to be here. Tell me, Bento, are you happy because you realize that you can remember exactly what happened that night and you're confident within your abilities to tell the court the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you VR pill? That's a thumbs up, Your Honor. Let the record state that was a thumbs up, yes? Yes. Now,
Very good.
who touched him? It's all right, you can tell me. Go on, tell me. Yes. No. Yep, there was only one officer there. Brutalized him, they did. All that. Your Honor, I believe we previously spoke of how he was beaten up by one child.
A child,
As
yes.
pathetic and as utterly embarrassing as that may be, for one small person to inflict such damage on Mr. Hamsky that he would attain such egregious injuries, why, it shakes me to my utter core. Tell me this. The RV that was previously mentioned, can we pull that up on the for the property damage report, Your Honor?
Yes, give me one moment. Oh, I dropped something. There we go. Yes, let me see. Oh, that's wrong.
Ooh.
Is it this one? Nope, this one.
Property damage, yes. As the court can see here, property damage was inflicted upon a hot dog stand next to the Lucuza resident place of business, yes. Owned by Lucuza, that happens to be a lounge. Jackass. So, do we know that the hot dog stand was actually owned by Mr. Lucuza? Maybe it could have been abandoned. Maybe, just maybe, Mr. Hamsky was framed. Mr. Hamsky,
Indeed.
was your
Look at him right now. It's his aneurysm.
Sorry,
His aneurysm's just hurting him.
repeat, yeah, I was, high on pills.
Oh, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I didn't
I
hear
see.
anything. My bad.
High on pills.
I passed out there for a second. I should be okay.
Mr. Hamsky, surely you didn't mean behind the wheel of your RV. Could it be possible that that night, while in your place of residence, that your RV could have potentially been stolen by a miscreant who aimed to do you harm, but then suddenly realized that the recreational automobile was far too large to fit outside of the alleyway that you had precariously parked it in, and had decided to run it into a hot dog stand, therefore framing you for the damages?
Objection. The defense attorney is leading, trying to get an answer that they want. Not to mention that it's already known that a couple things were said to the people present at the party, one of them being that the defendant did indeed crash his RV on the premises.
That's true.
Shit.
Oh, well, objection sustained.
So
It was a
he'll
fucking
pay a
hot dog
fine. So he'll pay a fine. Fair enough, we'll work those details out later. Bad boy, tisk tisk, very bad. However, were you there on the night of the arrest? That's a thumbs up, court. Thumbs up, yes, 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 okay. That's a thumbs up, indeed. That means she was. Now, as I was saying, don't throw grenades in the courtroom. God damn it.
Who just threw a grenade?
Nobody. Shit, must have been
Nobody?
dropped out of my briefcase. Sorry, that's my microphone. I do stand up on the weekends. Right. So the trespassing. Very code for the trespassing. Trespassing with property damage.
Right. Yep.
Yes, yes. No worries,
Sorry,
Your
that's my personal
Omnipotence.
thing. That's my personal stuff again.
Christ almighty, man. Right.
I'm not on trial here. Get back to your business.
All right, so he may have crashed into it, but had it been several days since the incident took place, since you were arrested, from the time you had crashed accidentally, we all have fender benders, accidentally crashed into that hot dog stand. Had it been days since the arrest? Yes, so the crash was not on the day of the arrest. Therefore, officers could have easily, at any time, stepped in and cuffed him right there, or maybe even offered him a ticket for such a misdemeanor and small mistake. But rather, noise complaints were had on that night, were they not? He was promoting his SoundCloud album. Why, he's just trying to make it in the rap industry. That's admirable for a young man like him, I'd say. He's a go-getter, a gentleman through and through. Why, he's a capitalist, trying to pave out his own life, and meanwhile the oppressive police force stepped in and brutalized him, did they not? Did they use excessive force upon the arrest? They tried to nail trespass on him. Trespassing into a building, for all we know, couldn't have belonged to really anybody.
Objection,
Maybe.
Your Honor. Lakuza himself made it very clear that he would see Meat Hamsky in court for trespassing on his property.
Well, where is he now? Too good to appear at his own case. Why, we should have this whole case thrown out simply due to his absence.
I would like to point out to the court that there is a lot of leading taking place, attempting to spin a tale to make Mr. Meat Hamsky look like he is innocent, while we're glossing over the known facts of different things that we are aware took place. Yes, he did indeed crash his RV into Lakuza's property. And yes, he was on Lakuza's property trespassing and was told by the owner himself that he had no purpose in being there and was told post-haste to leave.
With a smile.
As all service should be.
What about the controlled substances, Your Honor? Can we take a look at that on the the controlled substances that were?
one more time.
Jesus,
yes,
man!
that's good.
Ah,
Look,
that is
listen,
good.
I've got my own priorities. You all woke me up for this. I didn't get time to look at my gallery today.
What is that, Vagisil?
Yeah, well, you get what you get, and you try to sell it when you're hungry in the streets of the
Pringle?
Lounge. No, it's a peanut or a sponge.
So you are
I can't
selling
remember.
substances.
Allegedly.
He just admitted to it.
Allegedly, our
He did just
defendant
admit to
here had a.
I mean, am I supposed to tell the truth or what?
Honesty is the best policy.
Your
Honesty
Honor.
is the best policy. God is
Since when
listening right
has
now.
Vagisil ever been a controlled substance? I believe that the Lolly Police Department was out of line for these actions. You there. Yes, you.
I think someone's tampering with the evidence.
La-
I'll lock him in.
Lastly, but not leastly,
That was a sponge.
do you believe the amount of force present? No. Let me word that differently before Brunswick gets his panties in a twist. Did you, or did you not, encounter Mr. Meadhemsky being shot, beaten up, and arrested by that arresting officer? And to... Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible, yes. Big mess, I know. And has Mr. Hamsky had a violent history of victimhood with the Lolly Police Department? That is a thumbs up, Your Honor. I'm starting to see a pattern. As I said, systematic oppression of the poor, working class gentleman just trying to get by. Misdemeanor
Objection.
defenses.
You have to have a job to be working class.
2 court points for the epic burn.
What do you think he was trying to sell? He was self-employed.
Shut. He was a capitalist. He was a gentleman through and through.
Well, what was your business?
He was going to be a star until
Selling
they
bad
broke
stuff?
him. But no, fuck off, god damn it.
Sponges.
Shit. Listen, Your Honor. Though Mr. Hamsky may have crashed into that hot dog stand, may have been standing in a structure owned by someone who was not himself, and occasionally laying down and maybe even moving objects in and out of said location for a set amount of time before being asked to vacate violently. Shut up.
It looked better when I...
Despite all of these facts, my defendant would like you to know that the details of this entire case have been blown entirely out of proportion as a ruse, as we have heard from the testimony of these witnesses, by the Lolly Police Department to frame an innocent man by blowing small misdemeanor defenses that could have been handled by a ticket into full-on cases of domestic battery.
Objection. Trespassing and breaking and entering is a jailable offense.
That's a good
If
point.
I broke and entered, when they broke through my ceiling, was that them breaking and entering?
I rest.
No.
Look, just fucking look. I rest. Fine. Cross-examine. God damn it, I hate that guy.
All right. I'm loving this. Mr. Brunswick, please. Cross-examine.
Damn busted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Shut.
Bentu. So you were present at the night of the arrest, correct? And you were able to see everything that took place? All the arrests that took place? How many were there? How many people were arrested at this party? Just Mr. Midamsky. I see. And you were at the place where the arrest took place the entire time, yes? I just need a yes or no, my friend. You were present. When you were there, did you see anything that would resemble graffiti or vandalism that took place on the walls? Pictures, spray paint, chalk, marker. So you did, all right. When you were there at this area, and you were at the party, was it very loud or very quiet? You can give me one finger for very loud, 2 fingers for very quiet. It was a mix. Sometimes it would be loud, sometimes it would be quiet. Very good. Now, Mr. Midhamsky is the owner of this property, yes or no? You don't know. Do you have a reason to believe that Mr. Midhamsky is not the proprietor of this property? No? So Mr. Midhamsky never said to you or anybody else that a Mr. Lukuza was allowing him to stay there, and he definitely wasn't squatting, quote unquote. Never said that to you at all. I see. At any point in time when you were present, did you see any sort of substances? Controlled substances, illegal substances, any kind of drugs? No, you didn't see any.
No.
Are you pointing at the Vagisil and soap? Or sponge?
Vagisil, goddammit.
Interesting. Interesting. I would also like to remind the court that every once in a while Mr. Midhamsky has been unresponsive during the hearing, and the very last time that took place he made it very clear that he is quote-unquote high on pills. I would like the court to transcript that, because when you look closely at Mr. Midhamsky, the darkening around his eyes isn't one of physical abuse. It would be one that happens because of an overdose on drugs. Drugs, that I might say, were brought up inside of his SoundCloud that the defense attorney was so very kind to bring up. You see, Mr. Midhamsky released a song debuting at his party that talked about him doing drugs and bragging about, I believe the amount was 1.5, whatever that may be to him. Regardless, 1.5 is well over the amount that is necessary to have an intent to distribute.
What is your objection?
Your Honor. You only found fucking Vagisil. It is an artistic fucking interpretation. To get in the rap industry, is it not common to rap about how many hoes or bitches, money, cars, and drugs you have within your current possession? Oh, firearms too. Yes, firearms. They did not find bitches or rims or firearms. Fucking Vagisil on the scene.
While I would be inclined to agree in any other sense with the defense attorney, just out of his own mouth, Mr. Midhamsky said that he was becoming unresponsive due to being high on pills. That is very different than anything that could be Vagisil or sponges. And to get a high from pills, certain chemicals have to be used that are found within controlled substances. That's something that the court needs to know.
See pills.
So you're surmising that he might have been using Vagisil to create the pills. Perhaps it's an ingredient?
It's not my place to say, Your Honor. I'm only collecting the dots. The court makes the final decision. However, I would also like to call into question the sincerity of the 2 witnesses that were present. If that is indeed the fact, and Mr. Meadhamsky is high on pills, so to speak, it would be fair to assume under further investigation that connections could be found with this intent to distribute that he bragged about in his own SoundCloud, that the witnesses that are here with him, one of which had a mental breakdown in court, could also be currently in withdrawal or high on drugs as well. Further investigation would be necessary, but their stories don't add up with things that are already known to the court. I do not wish to
That's
ask
a
any
bold
more
claim.
questions. Oh yes, and I intend to back it up. I have 2 witnesses to call up when we are done. My cross-examination is finished, Your Honor.
Very well. Does the defense wish to re-examine the witness?
It's up to you, man. You're the brains.
I'm just here. I don't know why I'm here.
Very well. Bento, you may take your seat.
You could have emoted less, Bento. You fucked me.
I think you fucked you.
I picked a bad day off CPD.
You got some in the back. There's a lot of stuff back in evidence. Ooh.
Want to sniff the
Where is
skinny?
my... Right. Does the defense have any more witnesses to bring to the stand?
That's about it, Your Highness.
Very good. Do you need to pick me up?
I don't know. Do you want a cheesecake or something to get me out of this?
No. There's some Vagisil in the back if you need a little kick.
All right. I mean, I could take some.
No thanks, buddy. God, I love court. All right. You may bring forward your first witness.
Thank you, High Lord Judge Bringus. I would like to call Officer Rickety to the witness stand.
You've got the wrong evidence. We out.
Shut up, it's already over. Oh, it is dental cream.
Oh, bailiff. Wait. Bailiff, I threw the Bible. It's over here.
I
You
think
can
you
grab
throw
it.
the Bible.
I have diabetes.
Too big to get up.
Oh,
What does that even have to do with anything?
Look.
Please raise your right hand.
Not surprised you have diabetes.
Diabetes.
Shut
Swear to tell
up!
the truth, the whole truth, and the only truth.
I do.
Very good. You may begin.
Officer Rickety, good afternoon. Were you present for this arrest that took place of Mr. Meadhamsky?
Yes, I was the lead officer.
I see. How many officers were there under your command when you approached the premises?
I believe it's between 6 to 8, somewhere around
6
there.
to 8. What different parts of your department were present? Did you have any special response teams or just regular patrol officers?
Initially, regular patrol was called in, but whenever we had to clear the building, SORT was called in for support, and they were the ones responsible for clearing the building, which I led them as well.
Understandable. Very well. That being the case, what did you see when you first approached this so-called derelict building that Mr. Meadhamsky was occupying?
There was trash everywhere, overturned vending machines, graffiti on the walls, one of which just said no cat cops, and then a thank you letter to Lacusa.
So this vandalism that you saw, there was specific targets in this vandalism, such as Lolly police members and Lacusa himself, the owner of the property.
It was against cat cops, but Lacusa was on the thank you message.
I see.
And then there's also several other names on there.
Now, when you came into contact with Mr. Meadhamsky, what took place, start to finish?
Well, he walked in unexpectedly. We didn't expect the suspect to show up. He complied with us immediately. We asked him if he was living here, and he said, what were we doing in his apartment? And then I told him we had received a call of some suspicious activity going on inside, some loud noises. We had to come investigate. We asked him about his 1.5 drugs on the tape as well.
I see.
He admitted to living there, and then we took him down to the station and processed him.
I see. Now, when you came in contact with Mr. Meadhamsky, did any of your officers fire their weapon?
No. Weapons were ready, just in case, because we weren't sure what was walking in, but no shots were fired by
Was
any
a
of our
single
officers.
round fired by an LPD officer at the defendant right there?
No, there was not.
And you were in charge of the officers on the scene?
That's correct, yes.
If an order like that was to be made, it would come from you, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And that order was not given?
It was not given, nope.
I understand. At any point in time, did you witness your officers abusing Mr. Meadhamsky while he was in your custody?
No, our officers were very professional and courteous.
As they usually are. But my next question is more important. Mr. Meadhamsky, did he have any of these injuries or, little emo eyeshadow going on? Did he have that when you arrived on the scene?
He was looking pretty beat up, yes.
Did any of your officers make a comment about it, or you yourself?
No, I don't believe so, no.
I see. Was anything found on the property itself? Such as illegal substances, firearms?
Just some Vagisil in the bathroom, and then the 1.5 drugs on a mixtape we found.
I see.
Were beat up before they got there.
I see. Well, another question that's worth noting, officer. Did the suspect comply with you when you first arrived? When you made contact with Mr. Meadhamsky, was there any kind of altercation?
No, there really wasn't.
Was anyone else present when you arrived?
Only our officers were in the building.
Only your officers arrived and nobody was on the scene. It was just
No,
you.
sir.
How did you find Mr. Meadhamsky then?
He walked in while we were performing the investigation.
I see. Mr. Meadhamsky, I was curious. Did you find these officers going through your apartment?
Yes. Also, I inhaled a lot of ceiling dust when they busted through the ceiling, and I'm pretty sure I'm having a hard time breathing because of that.
It's probably asbestos, but that wouldn't have happened, if he weren't on someone else's property. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. Mr. Meadhamsky has just said with his own mouth that he was the one who found the officers when they were on his quote-unquote property, which we have now established is under the ownership of Lakuza. That being said, the two witnesses that just came to the stand have been revealed to both be lying on behalf of the defense, because they did not witness anything, because no one was present when the officers arrived, as Mr. Meadhamsky had just said he was the one who found the officers when they were in his apartment. The prior witnesses that have given us statements saying that they were there and witnessed a horrific beating and discharge of firearms lied to the court and lied to the Honorable High Lord Judge Bringus.
Everyone gasp.
Gasp.
You can lie to the court, but you can't lie to your counsel. Good luck.
I quit. Alright, Lucifer, you're my backup.
I'm gonna go
going on.
home to my family.
Mr. Python.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Python.
Can I fire myself?
Yes, you may. However, you have performed very admirably this day. If your defendant wasn't so inept, you might have even gotten away with it. Not to say I've made a verdict yet. We haven't heard all the evidence, all the witnesses.
Right. One last thing, Your Honor.
Oh, do you have an objection? Just yell objection. It's easier for me. I can't read.
If you look at the evidence table, that's not Vagisil, that's dental cream.
All
I
right.
showed both, so
Hey, Brunswick. Hey, good game out there.
Well, this changes everything.
Dental cream.
Fucking hate that. God, fuck that. God, fucking.
I'm so glad I wore my cup today. If I may continue,
glad
Your
it's
Honor.
nice.
Sorry, what are we doing? Where are we now?
Cross-examination of the officer witness.
Maybe in jail.
Oh yeah, do you rest for now for the witness?
2 more questions.
Very good. Continue.
Officer Rickety. So, it was established that you were on the premises when Mr. Meadhamsky walked into the apartment. No one else was around. You saw, what was it, vandalism? What else?
Vandalism, graffiti on the walls, overturned vending machines,
Same thing, vandalism.
damage to property. Yes, and found the mixtapes as well.
And it was established that this was Lacuza's property.
When I turned those vending machines over, there was a crackhead in that room, and I didn't want him coming out.
So you do admit to overturning the machines
it was
then?
for the
Oh,
better good.
self-defense.
Self-defense.
Self-defense against the crackhead, Your Honor. He cannot be... Because Meadhamsky's such a stand-up citizen, and this dental cream, not Vagisil, by the way, cannot be used to create drugs. I don't know what I'm trying to explain here, but self-defense.
It's curious that a crackhead would be attracted to your apartment, Mr. Meadhamsky. It makes me wonder what it is that you're peddling from that
Objection.
apartment.
The crackhead was there before he rented the apartment.
Can
and
you prove
Lacuza
this?
didn't know that he was in it.
I renovated that
Can you
place.
prove this?
I didn't
can
find the
prove that.
crackhead until after he... Was it behind the vending machine?
They have no idea.
Let me ask you a question. Mr. Finn. What do you think about this on the screen right now? How do you feel about it?
I saw her in the Lacuza lounge.
Yeah, they're in the Lacuza lounge.
False. It's a man. I can't pan up.
Are you assuming gender?
I'll show you. Just hold on.
I don't want to see it.
Objection, Your Honor. He's not even here. He's not even here.
Oh my god! Oh god!
You feel really silly now, don't you?
I don't want to see it.
Very well. The court will take that into consideration for the final verdict.
What were we talking
Continue with the
about again?
I don't remember.
Last
What do you
question, Your
continue
Honor.
with your question?
Officer Rickety, was it stated to you or by any of your officers of the department that Lacuza had ever given permission to Mr. Meadhamsky to be on his premises?
No, I do not believe he had permission.
On the wall to Lacuza.
Let's see. All right. That's it. Thank you very much, officer. I appreciate it. That's it for my questioning.
Very good. Wait, Rickety. Come back,
Objection,
Rickety.
Your Honor.
They get to cross-examine you if they want to.
Oh,
What is your objection? You're objecting everything.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to object, but Your Honor, the evidence of Meadhamsky getting permission to live there was written on the wall as a thank you note to Lacuza. It was written in writing.
So you admit he wrote it.
On the wall. It's like a
But you're
contract.
But you're admitting that he wrote it. He wrote
What a shit
on the
show.
wall of the property.
Anyway, I just came
I
to do
decorated
The
it
contract
like
to hire me is
wallpaper.
on the wall in the alley behind this place, so...
Wait,
Yeah,
you did
I
what
didn't have
behind the
paper.
alley?
I had to
You
hire
didn't
him
have
somehow.
paper.
Yeah, he wanted it written down, so I wrote it on the wall out back.
Does he look like someone with paper, Your Honor?
Some
Gotta
kind
use
of
my
paper,
pen.
maybe.
Rolling paper, if I was to guess.
Listen, I need...
Oh, we use the wall.
Listen. I'm going to need you to put your finger on this. This is going to tell me whether or not
You have
your
diabetes.
intentions... No, this is going to tell me if your
Just use that
intentions...
for your diabetes.
Alright, smart guys. How about this
Just
then?
hold his wrist towards pulse and a lie
Hold my hand,
detector.
touch my meaty fingers, and let me feel your sweaty palms. Ooh, yes, that feels like you're Yes, I'm definitely sensing a certain level
I've seen this done
of
before.
deceit and criminal aptitude. Yes,
Objection,
I'm
Your
feeling
Honor.
it.
This is not scientific test and evidence.
Your Honor,
Are
please
you
go.
questioning
Please go.
my hand?
No, Your Honor, please
you
go.
questioning the
Go
High Lord
easy on the
Bringus?
defense. They've never been in your court before. Please, mercy.
Very well. I'll do it for you, Boo.
Some 15 minutes left, salute.
You gotta end it quick.
What are we doing? Cross-examine.
I'm not missing
Cross-examine the
that huge
witness. I love your
When you
accent,
here
by
to
the way.
stay after this?
What?
Are you going to cross-examine the witness?
I wasn't paying
That witness.
attention, so
So
do
ask
you
them
want him?
about what they saw when.
Okay.
Okay.
What? Are you doing it?
Okay, both of
We're
us
both doing
then.
it.
Let's go. All right. You finish the sentence, all right?
All right.
When I walked into my apartment and you were standing there, what did I say to you?
What are you guys doing in my apartment?
Exactly. That was my apartment. Go.
What happened after you showed up at his apartment and he found that you guys were there?
We asked him if he's living there, and then talked to him for a few minutes. And he admitted to living at the premises. We knew he did not have.
He show any signs of violence?
He did
or
not. No,
harm?
he complied.
Did you or did you not point guns at an unsolicited guns at an unviolent,
Objection, Your Honor. This was all
I
covered
don't know
already.
what word I'm trying to use, but he didn't seem like
This
he
is
was going to
leading.
attack you, but you pointed guns and stuff.
Yeah, he had a bunch of fucking guns, bunch of them, and they were busting through the ceiling.
It's our job to protect ourselves. We weren't sure exactly what kind of character Mihamsky was, so we had to remain ready in defensive positions just in case. But
And
guns
how
were lowered.
did you get
as
into
soon as
Mihamsky's apartment?
The door was unlocked.
Objection. It was not Meadhamsky's
The door was
apartment.
unlocked.
It was Lakuza's
That you
property.
therefore
Sustained.
get
was no
into
lock on it.
Mihamsky's
Hold on.
apartment unauthorized?
The lock was
continuing
not
the
on the
line
door.
of questioning.
The-
It
the-
makes
the
no
lock
So you
was broken off
entered
the door.
Mihamsky's apartment
Wait, Lucifer.
unauthorized?
Lucifer, he lied. There was no door. I broke that door off the hinges. He's lying.
And he entered
Somebody laid
he
it back
entered
up
a
against.
building unauthorized. He broke in to Mihamsky's apartment, Your Honor. He broke an entry
Meadhamsky
on
does
a
not
police
have
force.
an apartment.
That's
At all.
true
Even
right
if it
now.
wasn't
I
his
have nowhere to live.
apartment, he
Lakuza
unauthorized.
has a property
a
that he was
building.
not authorized to be on.
Therefore, he broke in.
Sorry, I had to take a piss.
He broke into a
Understandable.
building,
welcome
whether or not it was owned by Mihamsky.
All right, I think we can rest our case here. We proved our point.
Yeah,
he
we
broke
rest.
in.
Yeah.
I broke the door off.
Tablet
He
it
lied
is.
about that door
That's
being
your
locked.
tablet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can definitely say that a lot was brought to light with that cross-examination. Thank you for that. Would you like to re-examine the witness?
I would like the witness to be
this
able
for
to
you.
escape while he still has brain cells left.
Very well, witness. Escape. Right. Have you any more witnesses to bring forward?
I certainly could if it would please the court. They're all going to say the same thing because they were all present to the true state of facts that took place, rather than the drug-addled witnesses as we saw in the first half of the game, so to speak. It's up to the court if they
Understood.
decide they need more
You
information.
should have gone first with the witness.
If you have no extra information to add, if you believe that it'll all be redundant, then I don't see any reason to continue with witnesses.
Excellent. I'd like to call up my next witness.
What? Very well. By all means.
That I could call the
Jackass.
gaming site up to the stand to give testimony. I agree, Mr. Python. This whole case has been a waste of fucking time. You're right.
Hey, I need a place to
Please raise your right hand.
I go to prison.
Going to stay in
Do you
fucking
swear to
jail
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
unless this works.
I do.
Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon.
I would like to ask you a couple of questions just to make sure that everything has been covered and there are no questions left to the court when they make their final decision. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Were you present when the officers arrived at Lakuz's building that is being dubbed as Midhamsky's apartment?
I was in an SLR team, but
Oh, you were in the Special Response Team unit?
I was.
Excellent, all right. Were any of your weapons discharged at all at Mr. Midhamsky?
No, none of us discharged any of our weapons.
Were any weapons discharged at all? Just to, so there's no questions
No.
in the court, not even just at Mr. Midhamsky. Was it discharged at all?
Not all.
Did any of the officers beat down or attack Mr. Midhamsky?
No, they all acted very professional, and no one was hurt.
I see. And when you arrived at the scene, were there anyone else there that could have possibly seen what had happened or given testimony to the arrest?
No, there was only us officers and Midhamsky himself that were
I see. Very good. From these line of questioning, Your Honor, it is pretty easy to deduce, I'll say it once again then, and the first two witnesses were probably either on payment or drug-addled and had absolutely no testimony that is worth the court paying attention to, but it should be transcripted so it be kept as evidence. The officers that were present, none of them have fired or discharged their weapons, which is in direct defiance of the words of both the defense and the defendant himself. Claiming bodily harm, as I'm sure you understand, if an officer murdered somebody, they would have been arrested and sent to jail for a very long time or gotten the death penalty. So these kinds of lies coming from the defense attorney need to be recognized by the court. Other than that, I really have nothing else from the officer. They have given the same clear testimony.
Very good. Would you like to cross-examine?
Hell no.
Very well. You may take your seat.
Thank you.
Well, unless anyone has any other witnesses they'd like to bring, I would like to move to closing statements. Very well.
Let's wrap this up because I need to go to jail and sleep.
Yeah, all right,
Fair
all
enough.
right. I got this, Your Honor. He's innocent.
Compelling.
Oh wow, where'd you get that from, guys?
Bailiff.
How I pay the big bucks.
Okay, no?
Bailiff, where's your gun?
He's-
You're supposed to have a
he's a-
gun too.
Your Honor, he's
Bailiff, are you even
innocent, I
paying
tell you.
attention?
Shit.
It's innocent.
All right. All right, that's it.
Ooh,
All
he
right,
is,
all
is
right.
he?
Look. Your Honor,
It's innocent. Lamborghini.
shut the fuck. Get
Ooh, a Lamborghini.
That's my house key. God damn it.
A free house, eh? Ooh,
Your Honor,
Shit, you should
I
have
thank,
had that.
I thank you for your contributions, and I will take it into deep consideration. Thank you.
Your Honor, I've noticed a lot of technical mumble jumble and legal lingo this entire case. May I
I
even
wasn't
be
expecting
standing
that.
here so close to you?
If you want to.
omnipotence? Your Honor,
That's Shrek.
let me appeal to your emotional side, then, if I may. Your Honor, Mr. Midhamsky has a custom avatar. We cannot imprison him. I rest my case.
What's that mean?
Means
Listen,
you're
I'll
special,
just go
Objection,
in there
Your
and
Honor.
I'll wait
All
for the bus.
of the LPD's avatars are
Means you're
custom
special.
avatars.
No,
That cancels
no, no,
out that he
idiot!
has a
Idiot!
custom
Don't you
avatar.
listen to that whore mouth. Don't you listen to those words. You're special. They can't arrest you. You're special.
May I
son.
suggest, Hi
You're the
Lord
future of
Bringus,
this great country.
the defense attorney gets arrested as well.
I'm considering it. He is homeless now, so no one's going to miss him.
Oh.
Well.
Right.
Duracell.
So, does the defense have anything else to add for their closing statement?
Listen, I'll just go straight to jail.
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
Okay, we got this. All right, we're done. All right, we're good. I rest. That's it.
All right.
We got this.
All right, prosecution. Any closing statements?
Closing statements, yes. I would like to say that it has been proven today, on this day, that the LPD has been proven by not only collaborating statements, but by the words of the defendant himself, that they have absolutely no wrongdoing on their hands whatsoever. I would also like to point out that Mr. Meadhamsky is a big old puss because he was beat up by little girls wearing boys' clothes. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and rest my suitcase over there, and mind you, there are big fat stacks of honeys in there that might change your mind. Thank you.
Honeys, you say? Very good to know. Interesting. Well, I think I'm ready to make my verdict. We'll call like a 5-minute recess, and the judge will go determine.
We don't have fucking time. He's got to go pee-pee.
Oh, God, all right. In that case, I find the defendant on the charges of vandalism, breaking and entering, squatting, and what was the other one? Taking drugs, doing lots of drugs, selling drugs. I find you guilty. And hold on, wait, don't say anything yet.
You love me.
Hold on. I do love you, but it's a rough love. Wait, hard love? What's the term? I don't know. Guilty. Hammer sounds. Hammer sounds. I sentence you.
Objection.
Objection. It's too
I can't afford to pay this mortgage anymore.
He's mocking me!
Are you okay?
Order in the court. I sentence you to 40 years in the Vagisil mine.
Objection.
May you rot.
The time for objections is over, you bloody idiot! It's over! You stupid
I love a good court case.
Hagrid, is that you?
Hagrid!
Shit! There's sandwiches in the back.
I'm gonna grab a Stromboli.
Well, I like a Stromboli. Oh yeah, you know how I like my Stromboli.
In somebody else's house.
Oh yeah, where's the key? I thought. But yes, we'll go to Gormunder's house and have Stromboli. Gormunder, you're invited too if you want to come to your house to have Stromboli. Well, it's my house now. You're so welcome.
So sweet. I see how
if
it
you
is.
need a place to stay while you get situated for the next couple of weeks, you're free to crash on my couch.
I had to crash a fucking car into your apartment building, fucking boomer. I'm out of here. My fucking cousin, 14 Ford Focus ST with an available crew cab pickup and 4-door seating arrangements with 0 down available at APR for 6 months available finance.
You want to come for a ride in my Tesla Model S?
Yeah.
Awesome, let's go.
Incredible.
Fun.
I think that's it all,
Thanks, guys. And this court case is
Are we finished?
closed. Thank you very much.
Okay.
How'd the court?
Oh, jeez, good lord.
I want both attorneys.
Okay.
I saw Meadhamsky lost, but did you have fun at least?
Gormunder, where's
It was alright. I was a little tired.
It's wild.
Gormunder, I need for closing interview statement.
All right.
Cinema. I'm working on the
What's the honorable?
Yes. I am
Ooh, I'm backwards.
Yeehaw!
Hello, little one.
Bringus.
Thank you.
I'm on a goose.
You're on a
Um,
goose?
Yes.
Why have you done this to yourself?
I'm abusing it.
Abusing an animal?
I think we have another
Yeah.
I think we have another court case.
Oh, good lord. Oh, good lord.
Use and abuse of animals.
Oh, good
Can't
lord.
get enough of it.
That's...
Wait, don't abuse me, please.
Are you an animal?
Half animal. Half. Don't abuse me, please.
Because I'm still recording.
What's that even supposed to mean?
I don't know.
Be creative. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I always do.
Easy court case, sir. That's
What is
Oh, what's on the menu, Ricky?
Oh shit, that's pretty powerful. That's a move right there.